In the bustling city of New York, where the days passed quickly and the nights never slept, lived Charles Wentworth, a successful businessman and owner of a considerable fortune. Charles, known for his ability to turn companies into success stories, was also recognized for his luxurious lifestyle. He lived in a spacious penthouse on the Upper East Side, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city. With his refined lifestyle, Charles was used to the best money could buy, from rare artworks to luxury cars. One of these cars was his custom limousine, which he used to navigate the busy streets of Manhattan. One morning, as Charles was being driven to an important meeting downtown, the traffic became terribly congested. The sleek black limousine found itself stuck in a long traffic jam near one of the busiest intersections. Charles, impatient, gazed distractedly out the window, accustomed to ignoring what happened on the streets below his bubble of comfort. However, something unusual caught his attention. A boy, about 12 years old, was standing on the sidewalk, begging from passing drivers. The boy, dressed in worn clothes and a visibly oversized coat, seemed out of place in the middle of the metropolis. His hair was disheveled, and there was a look of sadness and fatigue in his eyes. He held a paper cup with a small amount of coins, which jingled softly as he moved from car to car. Charles watched curiously as the boy approached the limousine. It was not the first time Charles had seen people begging on the streets of New York, but something about that boy made him feel a pang of compassion he had not felt in a long time. When the boy approached the limousine window, Charles felt a sudden urge to interact with him, an unusual action for the typically reserved businessman. With an almost automatic gesture, he lowered the window, revealing his face to the boy. The boy, surprised and perhaps a little intimidated by Charles's imposing presence and the luxury of the car, hesitated for a moment. Then, in a timid voice and eyes fixed on the ground, he asked, "Sir, do you have something to eat?" The simplicity and sincerity of the request caught Charles off guard. He expected the boy to ask for money, as was common, but the direct request for food made Charles realize the boy's real need. Without hesitation, Charles looked to the back seat and saw a shopping bag with some sandwiches and fruits he had bought earlier, planning to eat throughout the day. Moved by an impulse to help, Charles took one of the sandwiches and an apple from the bag and handed them to the boy. "Here, take this," said Charles, in a softer voice than he intended. The boy took the food with a shy and grateful smile. "Thank you very much, sir," he said, his eyes shining with genuine gratitude. With that, the boy moved away, looking for a place on the sidewalk where he could sit and eat. Charles watched, deep in thought. The simplicity of the encounter and the boy's genuine need impacted him more than he expected. The contrast between his luxurious life and the boy's harsh reality began to resonate in his mind. The image of the boy sitting on the sidewalk, carefully unwrapping the sandwich, was etched in Charles's memory as he continued his journey through the city. This brief but significant interaction left Charles pondering the inequalities and how he, with all his resources, rarely stopped to truly see the people around him. It was a disconcerting reminder that, beneath the facade of success and comfort, there was a harsh and relentless reality that often went unnoticed. The sense of unease that the encounter generated in Charles was the beginning of a change he did not yet fully understand, but that was already starting to take shape in his heart and mind. After the encounter with the boy at the traffic light, Charles Wentworth could not get the boy out of his mind. The seemingly trivial event had awakened something in Charles, a curiosity and unease he had not felt in years. Charles was a practical man, used to dealing with numbers, strategies, and business decisions. But that brief moment of human interaction touched him in an unexpected way. In the following days, Charles continued his usual routine, but the thought of the boy asking for food haunted him. He wondered how such a young child ended up on the streets in a city like New York, where wealth and poverty coexisted so blatantly. Despite his luxurious lifestyle, Charles was never insensitive to the suffering of others. He often made donations to charities, but always in an impersonal and distant way. The encounter at the traffic light, however, had made the issue personal. Charles began to notice things that previously went unnoticed. He saw more people on the streets, beggars on busy corners, and workers struggling to survive in the frenetic pace of the city. The contrast between the comfortable life he led and the hardships faced by many around him became more evident and unsettling. Intrigued and determined to find out more about the boy, Charles asked his driver, Frank, to return to the same intersection in the following days. He wanted to see if he could find the boy again, not just to offer more help, but to better understand his situation. Charles knew that street life was relentless and full of dangers, especially for a child. He wondered if the boy had family, if he attended school, or if there was any other way to help him out of that situation. During the trips back to the intersection, Charles and Frank observed attentively, but for a few days, they did not find the boy. Charles began to worry, wondering if something might have happened to him. His mind, usually occupied with meetings and business decisions, was now divided between his responsibilities and the growing concern for the unknown boy. Finally, on a sunny morning, Charles saw the boy again at the same intersection. The boy was there, wearing the same worn clothes, holding the paper cup, but this time he looked more worn out and tired. When the traffic light turned red, Charles lowered the limousine window and called the boy over. The boy approached, recognizing Charles immediately. "Hi, sir," he said, with a shy smile. Charles felt an unexpected relief seeing that the boy was okay, although clearly living in difficult conditions. "Hi, how are you?" asked Charles, trying to sound casual, but feeling a wave of emotions he could not fully explain. "I'm okay, sir. Thank you for the sandwich the other day," the boy replied, with genuine gratitude in his eyes. Charles noticed the honesty and simplicity in the boy's response, which only increased his curiosity. He wanted to know more, who the boy was, where he came from, and what had led him to that situation. Charles decided he could not let the issue go. He needed to do something, not just give a handout or a meal, but really understand and, if possible, help change the boy's life. Feeling that the moment was right, he asked, "What's your name?" The boy hesitated for a moment, as if pondering whether to trust Charles or not. But then he replied, "My name is Alex." Charles smiled, trying to appear welcoming and friendly. "Alex, do you have family around here? How did you end up on the streets?" The question was direct, but Charles felt it needed to be asked. He wanted to help, but to do so, he needed to understand the situation. Alex looked at the ground, visibly uncomfortable with the question. "I don't have any family," he finally said, in a low voice. "I've been alone for a while. I stay here and there, wherever I can find a safe place." Alex's words hit Charles like a punch. He knew that street life was hard, but hearing this from a child was devastating. Charles felt a growing responsibility within him. He could not simply leave Alex there, in the same place, facing the dangers of the city. Determined to act, he said, "Alex, I want to help you. We can find a safe place for you to stay, eat well, and think about how we can improve your situation. What do you think?" Alex looked at Charles, surprised and perhaps a little suspicious. He was used to being ignored or treated with disdain, and Charles's offer was unexpected. "Are you serious, sir?" Alex asked, with a tone of cautious hope in his voice. Charles nodded, with a serious and sincere expression. I'm serious, Alex. Let's take care of you. As Charles Wentworth conversed with Alex through the limousine window, he noted every detail about the boy. Alex seemed fragile, with hunched shoulders and a look that oscillated between hope and distrust. His skin, pale with fatigue, and his eyes marked by what seemed to be sleepless nights, showed the weight of a life that, although short, already carried many hardships. Charles, touched by Alex's vulnerability, felt a growing urgency to do something to help. When Charles asked Alex about his family, the boy's response was a dagger to the heart. "I don't have any family," he said, with devastating simplicity. Charles realized that Alex was trying to be strong, but the loneliness and fear were palpable in his voice. This revelation intensified Charles's desire to intervene meaningfully. Charles, always direct and pragmatic, decided that the best way to help Alex was to offer him something concrete, something that could alleviate his immediate situation. He imagined that the boy, living on the streets, had urgent basic needs. As he thought about it, Charles reached for his wallet, ready to give some money, but something made him stop. He knew that money could help temporarily, but it would not solve Alex's problems. Before Charles could think of an alternative, Alex looked at him with an expression of expectation. "Sir, do you have something to eat?" Alex's question was simple, but the humility and need behind it touched Charles deeply. Alex was not asking for money, clothes, or anything that could be sold or traded. He was asking for something as basic as food. Charles realized that, for Alex, a sandwich was more valuable than any amount of money because it represented an immediate and urgent need. Charles was momentarily stunned by the simplicity of the request. He was used to seeing beggars asking for money, sometimes for not-so-obvious needs, but Alex's request was direct and honest. Without hesitation, Charles turned to the back seat, where there was a shopping bag with some items he had bought for the day. He took a sandwich and an apple, quickly thinking about how these basic foods meant so much to the boy in front of him. As he handed the food to Alex, Charles saw the boy's face light up with gratitude. "Thank you very much, sir," Alex said, holding the sandwich and apple with both hands as if they were precious treasures. The genuine gratitude in Alex's eyes touched Charles in a way he did not expect. He realized that, for Alex, this small act of generosity meant much more than just a snack. It was a demonstration of care and attention, something that was probably missing in the boy's life. As Alex moved away a bit to eat, Charles watched him intently. The boy sat on the sidewalk, unwrapping the sandwich carefully. With each bite, Charles felt a mix of sadness and determination grow inside him. He knew he needed to do more than just give Alex food. He needed to understand the boy's situation and find a way to help him out of the streets. Charles remembered his own childhood, marked by financial difficulties until his family had a stroke of luck that changed their lives. He knew what it felt like to be helpless and destitute, and the sight of Alex, so young and already facing so many challenges, brought back memories and feelings he had long put aside. Charles wondered how he could use his resources and influence to truly make a difference in Alex's life. As he reflected, Charles made a decision. He could not simply leave Alex in that state. He needed to learn more about the boy, understand his story, and find a way to help him find a path to a better life. Charles felt a moral responsibility, almost like a calling, to intervene significantly in Alex's life. Charles opened the limousine door and approached Alex, who was finishing eating. The boy looked at him, curious and a little cautious. Charles crouched to be at Alex's eye level and asked, "Alex, would you like to come with me? We can find a place for you to stay, where you can rest and think about what to do next." Charles knew the offer was risky and that Alex might refuse, but he felt it was the right thing to do. Alex looked at Charles, the suspicion still present, but mixed with a spark of hope. "Are you serious, sir?" Alex asked, with a voice filled with uncertainty but also a desperate need to believe in something better. Charles nodded, with a sincere and determined expression. "Yes, Alex, I'm serious. Let's take care of you." After offering Alex the chance for a new beginning, Charles Wentworth felt a mixture of anxiety and hope. He knew he was about to make a decision that could drastically change both their lives. The idea of bringing a stranger, especially a street child, into his luxurious Manhattan home was not something he had planned or even considered before. However, something in Alex's eyes and his precarious situation awakened in Charles an unshakable determination to do the right thing. Alex, on the other hand, was visibly torn between distrust and hope. Charles's proposal seemed too good to be true. Living on the streets, Alex had learned to be cautious and suspicious of good intentions, as not everyone who offered help truly had good intentions. However, the sincere tone in Charles's voice and the generous gesture of giving him food awakened in Alex a feeling of hope he had not experienced in a long time. Charles, sensing Alex's hesitation, tried to reassure him. "Look, Alex, I know it seems strange. You don't know me, and I don't know you, but I want to help. We can start slowly. You can come with me and see how you feel. If at any point you don't feel comfortable, you can tell me, and we'll find another solution." He knew he needed to earn Alex's trust, and the last thing he wanted was to pressure him or seem insensitive. Alex, still holding the sandwich he had finished eating, looked at Charles with a serious expression. "I don't know, sir. I've never been to a place like that before," he said, gesturing to the limousine and the bustling streets of Manhattan around them. Charles understood Alex's fear. For a child living on the streets, the prospect of entering such a different and luxurious environment could be intimidating. Trying to soften the situation, Charles smiled and said, "Don't worry about that now. Let's just take it one step at a time. You can trust me. I just want to make sure you're safe and have a chance to live better." Charles extended his hand to Alex, hoping the boy would accept his gesture of goodwill. After a tense moment of silence, Alex finally nodded and took Charles's hand. He was still nervous, but something in Charles's sincere look and the way he spoke convinced Alex that he could trust him, at least for now. Charles helped Alex into the limousine, and they set off towards Charles's penthouse. During the trip, Alex remained silent, watching the city pass by the window. Charles, sitting next to him, respected the boy's silence, understanding that he needed time to process everything. Charles was also thinking, planning the next steps. He knew that taking Alex home was just the beginning. There were many details to consider, such as security, social assistance, and the legal steps necessary to care for a child. When they arrived at Charles's building, Alex was visibly impressed by the grandeur of the place. The doorman greeted them respectfully, and Charles briefly explained that Alex was a special guest. In the elevator, going up to the top floor, Alex looked around, still a bit intimidated by the luxury and the unknown. When they arrived at the penthouse, Charles led Alex inside and showed him around. "This is my home," said Charles, trying to make Alex feel at ease. "You can stay here as long as you need. I have a guest room that will be your space, and you can use anything you need." Alex, still silent, followed Charles around the apartment, marveling at what he saw. The opulence of the place contrasted sharply with the rough streets of New York, where he had spent so much time. Charles showed Alex the guest room, which was tastefully decorated and comfortably furnished. "This will be your room," said Charles, opening the curtains to let in the sunlight. "Feel free to take a bath, rest, and get comfortable. If you need anything, just call me." Alex looked around the room, seemingly incredulous. "Is this really for me?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Charles nodded with a smile. "Yes, Alex, it's all for you. You're my guest, and I want you to feel safe and comfortable here." Charles realized that for Alex, who was used to the uncertainties of the streets, this level of comfort and safety seemed surreal. He knew it would take time for Alex to feel truly at ease and fully trust. While Alex explored the room, Charles reflected on what he had done. He had made an impulsive decision, but he was determined to follow through and ensure that Alex had a real opportunity to change his life. Charles left the room, leaving Alex alone to acclimatize. He went to the kitchen and prepared a simple but nutritious meal for Alex, thinking the boy was probably hungry after days or weeks of irregular meals. Charles felt a mixture of emotions: concern, empathy, and a strange sense of satisfaction for doing something concrete to help someone in need. As Charles set the table, he thought about the next steps. He would need to contact support services to ensure Alex received the help he needed, and perhaps even consider the possibility of adoption or foster care. Charles was aware that this was just the beginning of a journey and that there was much to be done. But above all, he felt he was on the right path, doing the right thing. After taking Alex into his home, Charles Wentworth spent the following days thinking about how best to help the boy. He was determined to provide Alex not only with a safe place to stay, but also with the opportunities and support needed for him to have a better life. Charles knew that, for this, he needed to fully understand Alex's situation, his story, his needs, and how he had ended up on the streets. Charles, a man used to solving problems directly and efficiently, decided to act methodically. He started by seeking information about the resources available for street children. Charles wanted to ensure that he was doing everything correctly, both legally and ethically. He knew that simply taking Alex into his home would not solve all the boy's problems. There were legal and welfare issues that needed to be addressed. First, Charles contacted a friend who worked in an organization that supported at-risk children. This friend, Robert, was an experienced social worker who knew the child protection system well. Charles explained Alex's situation and asked for advice on the next steps. Robert, surprised by Charles's initiative, offered his help to assess Alex's situation and ensure the boy received all the necessary support. Meanwhile, Charles tried to create a welcoming and stable environment for Alex. He noticed that the boy was slowly adjusting to the new reality, but there was still a reserve in his behavior, a caution that indicated a life full of challenges and distrust. Charles knew he needed to earn Alex's trust, and that would take time. One afternoon, Charles decided to sit down with Alex for a deeper conversation. They were in the living room, and Charles suggested that Alex share a little more about his life. "Alex, I want to help you in every way I can. But to do that, I need to understand your situation better. Can you tell me more about yourself? About your family, where you come from?" Alex, initially hesitant, looked at Charles and then at the horizon. He knew Charles genuinely cared, but revisiting his past was not an easy task. After a moment of silence, Alex began to speak, his voice low and laden with emotion. "I grew up in an orphanage," Alex said, his gaze fixed on his hands. "My mother died when I was little, and I never knew my father. I went from one orphanage to another, and after a while, I ran away." Charles felt a knot form in his throat. He had suspected that Alex's story was difficult, but hearing the boy talk about losing his mother and life in the orphanage was painful. "Why did you run away?" Charles asked gently, trying to understand the extent of Alex's situation. Alex took a deep breath, as if preparing to reveal something painful. "The orphanages weren't good places," he continued, still avoiding Charles's gaze. There were adults who were mean, and sometimes they hurt the kids. I couldn't take it anymore. So one day, I decided it was better to be on the street than there. Alex's words were simple, but the weight of the experience was clear. Charles felt a wave of empathy and anger. He knew that, unfortunately, cases of abuse in care institutions were not uncommon, but hearing this from Alex, such a young and vulnerable child, was devastating. He wanted to reassure Alex that he was now safe, but he also knew he needed to be sensitive to the trauma the boy had experienced. "Alex, I'm sorry you went through all that," Charles said, his voice firm but gentle. "You are very brave to have survived and found a way to take care of yourself. Now, I want to make sure you have the support you need to feel safe and happy. Let's work together to find a solution. Okay?" Alex looked at Charles, finally meeting his eyes. There was a mix of distrust and hope there, and Charles knew this was a crucial moment. "Do you really want to help me?" Alex asked, his voice trembling with doubt and hope mixed. Charles nodded with an encouraging smile. "Yes, Alex, I want to help you. We'll find a way together." He knew he was promising a lot, but he also felt an unwavering responsibility to keep that promise. In the following days, Charles and Robert, the social worker, worked together to assess Alex's needs. Robert visited Charles and Alex at the penthouse, conducting an initial assessment to better understand the boy's situation and his emotional and physical needs. He spoke with Alex in a calm and encouraging manner, trying to make the boy feel comfortable and safe. During the assessment, it became clear that Alex needed therapeutic support to deal with the trauma of his childhood. Robert suggested that Alex start seeing a child therapist specializing in trauma, someone who could help him process his experiences and develop healthy coping mechanisms. Charles agreed immediately, wanting to ensure Alex received all the necessary support. In addition, Charles and Robert discussed the legal options for Alex's future. Adoption or becoming a legal guardian were possibilities, but there were many steps to take to ensure everything was done correctly and in Alex's best interest. Charles was willing to follow all necessary procedures to provide a stable and loving life for the boy. While these issues were being resolved, Charles continued to try to offer a welcoming home for Alex. He began to spend more time with the boy, taking him to places Alex had never seen, like museums, parks, and cultural events. Charles wanted Alex to experience the good things in life, things he might never have had the opportunity to enjoy. The adjustment process was slow, but Charles noticed that Alex was starting to open up. The boy began to ask questions, express his curiosities, and even smile more often. For Charles, these small signs indicated that Alex was beginning to feel safe and loved. As Charles watched Alex explore his new environment with growing curiosity, he knew he had made the right decision. The boy still had a long way to go, but Charles was determined to be by his side every step of the way. He was learning that true generosity went beyond financial. It involved time, effort, and a genuine commitment to making a positive difference in someone else's life. After several weeks of living together, Charles Wentworth and Alex began to develop a stable routine. Charles was committed to spending quality time with Alex, who, in turn, showed signs of adapting to his new life. Alex, still distrustful of his surroundings and what the future held, began to feel more comfortable and safe in Charles's presence and in his new home. However, Charles knew there was much more to understand about Alex's past to help him move forward. One day, while Charles was working in his home office, Alex entered the room with a thoughtful expression. Charles, noticing that the boy wanted to talk about something, turned off the computer and gave him his full attention. "Alex, are you okay?" Charles asked, concerned. Alex, hesitant, nodded and sat in a chair in front of Charles's desk. "I was thinking about when you asked me about my family," Alex began, his voice low and hesitant. "There's something I didn't tell you because I didn't know if I should." Charles, curious and concerned, encouraged Alex to continue. "You can tell me anything, Alex. I'm here to help you." Alex took a deep breath before continuing. "When I was in the orphanage, I had a friend, Ethan. We were like brothers, but one day he was adopted, and I never heard from him again." Alex seemed lost in thought, his eyes full of a mix of sadness and hope. "I've always wondered what happened to him, if he's okay." Charles felt the pain and longing in Alex's voice. He knew that these childhood connections were important, especially for a child who had so few people in his life. "Ethan," Charles repeated, recording the name. "Maybe we can try to find him, if you'd like. It might give you some answers and maybe help close that chapter." Alex looked at Charles, surprised and hopeful. "Do you think we can find him?" he asked, the hope evident in his voice. Charles smiled, determined to help. "We'll try, Alex. I can't promise anything, but I'll do everything I can to help you find him." Charles contacted Robert, the social worker, to ask for help in finding Ethan. Robert, who had access to adoption records and contacts, agreed to help. He explained that while it might be difficult to track someone down after adoption, they could start by checking the records of the orphanage where Alex and Ethan had stayed. While Robert investigated, Charles continued to support Alex. They started planning small activities to keep Alex busy and engaged, like visits to museums, afternoons in the park, and even some art classes that Alex showed interest in taking. Charles was determined to provide Alex not just with stability, but also with enriching experiences he had never had the chance to enjoy. A few weeks later, Robert brought promising news. He had found information about Ethan, including details of his adoption and his new family. Ethan was living in a quiet suburb, about an hour's drive from the city. Robert had managed to contact Ethan's adoptive parents, who were surprised and intrigued by Alex's search. They agreed to arrange a meeting between the two boys, so they could see each other again. Charles shared the news with Alex, who was both excited and nervous. "I don't know what to say to him," Alex confessed, afraid the reunion might be awkward or disappointing. Charles reassured him, saying that the most important thing was to be honest and open. "You just need to be yourself, Alex. I'm sure Ethan will be happy to see you." The day of the reunion finally arrived. Charles and Alex drove to Ethan's house, both feeling a mixture of anxiety and hope. When they arrived, they were warmly greeted by Ethan's adoptive parents. Ethan, now the same age as Alex, was waiting in the living room. When Alex entered, there was a moment of silence before Ethan stood up and ran to hug Alex. The two boys hugged, tears streaming down Alex's face. Ethan was equally emotional, surprised to see his old friend again. "I thought I'd never see you again," Ethan said, his voice choked with emotion. Alex, crying, replied, "Me too. I've missed you so much." The boys spent the day together, reminiscing about their time in the orphanage and catching up on their lives. Ethan told Alex about his new family and how he was doing well in school, while Alex shared how Charles had helped him and how he was trying to adjust to his new life. It was a day of intense emotions, but also of healing and reconnection. For Charles, seeing Alex so happy and re-energized was a moment of realization. He understood that, beyond providing safety and stability, it was crucial for Alex to have these emotional connections and life experiences. The reunion with Ethan was an important step for Alex to start feeling more rooted and confident in his new world. At the end of the day, as Charles and Alex returned home, Alex seemed lighter and more animated. He thanked Charles for helping him find Ethan, expressing deep gratitude. "This means so much to me, Mr. Wentworth," Alex said. Sincerely, Charles smiled, feeling a genuine happiness at the positive impact of his actions. "I'm glad I could help, Alex. And remember, we're just getting started. There are many good things ahead." The reunion with Ethan was a milestone in Alex's journey, showing him that even painful memories could lead to new connections and hopes. Charles, seeing the change in Alex, was more determined than ever to ensure that the boy had all the opportunities to grow and thrive. After the reunion with Ethan, Charles Wentworth realized that there was much more to Alex's story that he did not yet know. Charles felt that fully understanding Alex's past was essential to helping him move forward and heal from the traumas he had experienced. He knew that life on the streets and in orphanages left deep scars, and he wanted Alex to know that he was safe and had someone he could trust. One day, while the two were at home, Charles decided it was time for a deeper conversation. He invited Alex to join him on the penthouse terrace, where a gentle breeze blew and the city skyline offered a soothing view. Sitting in comfortable chairs, Charles began the conversation calmly and openly. "Alex, I want to know more about you, about your life before we met," Charles said in a gentle tone. "I know it must be hard to talk about it, but I believe it can help you feel better, and I want to be here to help in any way I can." Alex, initially reticent, looked at Charles and then at the horizon. He knew Charles genuinely cared, but revisiting his past was not an easy task. After a moment of silence, Alex began to speak, his voice low and laden with emotion. "I was born in a small town, but I don't remember much of it. My mother died when I was 5, and I never knew my father," Alex began, his voice filled with sadness. "After my mother died, I went to an orphanage. The first few years there weren't so bad. I had friends, and things seemed normal." As Alex spoke, Charles listened intently, noting the weight of each word. Alex continued, "But then, the problem started. The people who worked there weren't always nice. Some of them hurt the kids, and nobody did anything to help." Alex paused, his hands trembling slightly. "There was a man, the orphanage director. He was especially cruel. He made us feel worthless and always told us that nobody would ever adopt us." Charles felt a knot forming in his stomach. He knew that stories of abuse in orphanages were not uncommon, but hearing it directly from Alex was painful. "That must have been very hard for you," Charles said, trying to comfort Alex. "You were very brave to go through all that." Alex nodded, but his eyes were distant, reliving painful memories. "I had a friend there, Ethan," he continued, with a sad smile. "He was like a brother to me. We always dreamed of leaving that place and finding a family that loved us. But then, one day, Ethan was adopted, and I was left alone." Charles could see the pain and longing in Alex's eyes. He knew that these connections were precious to the boy, and that the separation from Ethan had been a hard blow. "And how did you end up on the streets?" Charles asked, trying to understand Alex's transition from the orphanage to street life. "After Ethan left, everything got worse. The director became more cruel, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So, one day, I decided to run away," Alex said, his voice becoming firmer. "I had nowhere to go, but I thought anywhere was better than staying there. I lived on the streets, trying to survive. It was hard, but at least I was free." Charles was impressed by Alex's strength and resilience. The boy had survived extremely difficult circumstances and still maintained an impressive determination. "You are very strong, Alex," Charles said, with genuine admiration. "I don't know if I would have had the same courage you did." Alex looked at Charles, surprised by the admission. "Thank you, Mr. Wentworth," Alex responded, with a small smile. But sometimes I just feel tired. Tired of all this. I wish things were different." Charles leaned forward, placing a comforting hand on Alex's shoulder. "I understand, Alex. And now, you have the chance to start over. We're here to help you build a new, happy life. I want you to know that you're not alone." Alex was silent for a moment, processing everything Charles had said. He felt a mix of relief and hope. "I've never had someone who really cared before," Alex said, his voice choked with emotion. "I always thought I'd have to do everything alone." Charles felt a wave of compassion. "You don't have to do everything alone anymore," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "I'm here, and I want to help you have a better life. We'll do this together." The conversation between Charles and Alex was an important milestone for both of them. For Charles, it was an opportunity to learn more deeply about the boy he had decided to help. For Alex, it was a significant step towards trust and acceptance that he deserved a better life and was not alone. In the days that followed, Charles began to make more plans to ensure that Alex received the necessary support. He contacted child trauma therapists and began exploring educational options for Alex to ensure he had the best opportunity for future success. Charles also began considering the possibility of formally adopting Alex. He knew this would be a long and complicated process, but he felt ready to take on that responsibility. Alex needed stability and love, and Charles was determined to provide it. As Charles and Alex continued to grow closer, Charles's house began to transform into a real home. Alex, who was once always on alert, began to relax and explore more of his curiosities and interests. He started showing interest in music and art, and Charles, happy to support these interests, provided lessons and materials for Alex to explore these new passions. Every day, Charles saw more of the true Alex emerge, an intelligent, curious boy full of potential. Charles knew there was much work ahead, but he was determined to continue supporting Alex and helping him reach his full potential. After the deep conversation they had, Charles Wentworth and Alex began to understand each other even more. Charles was determined to do everything he could to provide a better and more stable life for Alex. With the help of Robert, the social worker, and other specialists, Charles began to implement plans to ensure Alex had all the necessary support. One of Charles's first initiatives was to enroll Alex in a quality school that offered specialized support for children with difficult life stories. The school, located in a quiet neighborhood of New York, was known for its welcoming and personalized approach, offering programs that helped children reintegrate into academic and social life. On the first day of school, Alex was nervous. He had never attended a regular school before, and the idea of being surrounded by other children was both exciting and intimidating. Charles accompanied Alex to the school, offering words of encouragement. "Remember, Alex, you're here to learn and grow. Everyone has their own stories and challenges. Be yourself and don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for help," said Charles, trying to ease Alex's tension. Upon arrival, they were greeted by the school principal, a kind and experienced woman who was aware of Alex's situation. She led Alex on a tour of the school, showing him the classrooms, library, and recreation areas. Alex, though still a bit apprehensive, began to feel more comfortable as he became familiar with the environment. In the first few days, Alex faced challenges, such as adjusting to the school pace and interacting with other students. However, with the support of the teachers and the constant presence of Charles, he began to find his place. Alex showed a natural talent for art and music, and the school provided additional classes and resources to nurture these interests. Charles, seeing Alex's happiness in exploring these new passions, was moved and proud. As Alex adjusted to school, Charles and Robert continued to work on the legal aspects of Alex's situation. Adoption was becoming an increasingly real possibility. Charles knew this was an important step and wanted to ensure everything was done correctly and in Alex's best interest. He hired a lawyer specializing in adoptions to guide him through the process and ensure all documents and procedures were followed correctly. The adoption process brought up many emotions for Charles. He had never considered being a father before, but the idea of giving Alex a permanent and safe home began to seem like the right thing to do. Charles discussed the decision with Alex, ensuring the boy had a say in the matter. "Alex, I want you to know that, to me, you're already part of my family," Charles said, in a serious but affectionate conversation. "But I want to make sure you feel the same. Would you like me to become your adoptive father?" Alex was silent for a moment, clearly emotional. "I've never had a real family," he replied, his voice trembling. "But with you, I feel safe and loved. I would love to have you as my dad." Charles felt a wave of emotions upon hearing Alex's words. He knew this decision would change both their lives forever and was ready to embrace this new responsibility wholeheartedly. As the adoption process continued, Charles and Alex continued to build their life together. They established a routine that included educational and recreational activities, such as museum visits, music lessons, and outdoor outings. Alex also began attending regular sessions with a specialized child therapist to help him deal with his traumatic past and develop healthy emotional skills. The therapist helped Alex work through his emotions, encouraging him to express his feelings and understand that what happened in the past did not define who he was or his worth as a person. Charles actively participated in the therapeutic process, supporting Alex and learning how best to help him. The relationship between them strengthened each day, based on trust, respect, and mutual love. Meanwhile, Charles's life also began to change in unexpected ways. He realized that Alex's presence brought a new perspective and purpose to his life. Before, he was focused almost exclusively on his businesses and career, but now, he found joy and satisfaction in caring for Alex and building a family. Charles began dedicating more time to philanthropic activities, especially those aimed at at-risk children, feeling motivated to use his resources to make a difference. One of the initiatives Charles launched was a scholarship program for talented young people from underprivileged communities. The program, inspired by his experience with Alex, was designed to offer educational and personal development opportunities to children who might otherwise not have access to these resources. Charles involved Alex in the development process, wanting the boy to understand the importance of giving back to the community. Time passed, and the day of the adoption hearing finally arrived. Charles and Alex were both nervous, but also excited. In court, the judge reviewed the documents and asked a few questions to Charles and Alex. When the judge finally declared that Charles was officially Alex's adoptive father, there was an explosion of emotion. Alex, who had been trying to be strong and calm, began to cry with joy. Charles hugged him, feeling a joy and fulfillment he had never experienced before. "Now you're officially my son," Charles said, holding Alex's face with a smile. "And you're officially my dad," Alex replied, tears in his eyes. For both, this moment marked the beginning of a new life full of possibilities and hope. From that day on, Alex and Charles's lives flourished even more. Alex continued to excel in school, especially in the arts, and began making plans for the future. He wanted to use his skills to help other children who had gone through similar situations. Charles, in turn, continued to expand his philanthropic initiatives, always encouraging Alex to be part of these activities. The bond between them strengthened each day, built on a foundation of love, trust, and respect. Charles and Alex became not only father and son, but also best friends and partners in their new journeys. Charles's house, once a structure of luxury, transformed into a true home, full of laughter, conversations, and the warmth of a newly formed family. As time went by, the life of Charles Wentworth and Alex continued to thrive in ways neither of them had imagined. The adoption brought a new dimension of joy and purpose to Charles, while Alex, for the first time in his life, felt that he belonged to a family that loved and supported him unconditionally. Together, they began to build a promising future, full of hope and new opportunities. At the beginning of a new school year, Alex began to excel not only in arts and music, but also in his academic classes. With Charles's constant support and quality educational resources, Alex discovered a passion for literature and writing. He started writing short stories and poems, expressing his emotions and life experiences through words. Charles, noticing Alex's talent, encouraged him to explore this passion, providing him with books and materials that inspired him even more. One day, during a school meeting, Alex's English teacher praised his talent and suggested he participate in a local writing contest. Alex, initially nervous, accepted the challenge with Charles's encouragement. He worked hard on his essay, titled Finding Home, a narrative inspired by his own life journey. Alex's essay deeply moved the contest judges, and he ended up winning first place. The victory was a moment of great pride for both Alex and Charles, who celebrated together this significant achievement. Alex's story also attracted the attention of the local media, who were fascinated by the transformation of a street boy into a talented and promising young man. Alex was invited to share his story at various events and TV shows, where he talked about his journey and the importance of having a supportive family and environment. During these appearances, Alex always mentioned Charles and New Horizons, highlighting the positive impact these experiences had on his life. Charles, in turn, felt an indescribable joy seeing Alex thrive. He continued to support Alex's passions, enrolling him in creative writing workshops and connecting him with writers and artists who could mentor him. Additionally, Charles further expanded the activities of New Horizons, launching new initiatives to support young talents in the arts and literature. The relationship between Charles and Alex deepened even further, with the two sharing moments of learning and fun. They developed family traditions, like weekly outings to bookstores and libraries, where they explored new books and discussed their readings. These activities not only strengthened their bond, but also nurtured Alex's love for knowledge and creativity. As Alex grew older, he began to think about the future and the possibilities it held. He became interested in journalism and literature, considering a career that combined his passions for writing and social justice. Charles, always the encouraging mentor, helped Alex explore different career paths, introducing him to professionals in the fields that interested him and arranging visits to newsrooms and publishing houses. However, Alex's growth and prosperity also brought reflections on his past and the children he had met during his life on the streets and in the orphanage. He felt a growing responsibility to use his voice and experiences to help other vulnerable children. With Charles's support, Alex began organizing writing and art workshops for young people served by New Horizons, sharing his skills and offering a creative outlet for those who, like him, had faced difficulties. These workshops became a source of inspiration not only for the participating children, but also for Alex, who found a deep purpose in helping others. He began writing a series of stories based on the experiences of these children, with the goal of raising awareness about the issues they faced. Charles, proud of Alex's commitment to community service, fully supported these projects and helped publish and promote them. As Charles and Alex continued to build their lives together, They also found time to celebrate the small and big moments. Weekend trips, birthday celebrations, and quiet nights at home became precious memories that further cemented their bond. Alex, who once feared losing everything, began to feel more secure and confident in his place in the world, knowing he would always have Charles's unconditional support. At the end of that year, Alex was invited to speak at a conference on youth and resilience, organized by a national child welfare organization. He accepted the invitation with enthusiasm, eager to share his story and inspire other young people to overcome their challenges. During the speech, Alex spoke eloquently and passionately about his journey, from the streets to finding a loving home with Charles. He emphasized the importance of support, love, and opportunities for personal and collective growth. "I was lucky to find someone who believed in me and gave me a chance," Alex said, looking at Charles in the audience. "And I want every child, no matter where they come from, to have that same chance. We all deserve to find a home, a place where we can be loved and support our dreams." Alex's words deeply touched everyone present, and he received a standing ovation. Charles, with tears in his eyes, felt incredibly proud of Alex and the young man he was becoming. He knew that Alex's future was full of bright possibilities and that, together, they would continue to make a difference in the lives of others. On the way back home, Alex and Charles reflected on the journey they had taken together. "We've been through so much, and I never thought I would be here now," Alex said, with a smile. "But I'm so happy you found me that day." Charles smiled back, holding Alex's hand. "Me too, Alex. You've changed my life in so many ways, and I can't wait to see all the amazing things you're going to accomplish." With that, the story of Charles and Alex reached a new chapter, full of promise and hope. They knew that the road ahead might have its challenges, but they were ready to face them together, armed with love, trust, and a shared vision of a better future.